The term opinion is one we use a lot in our everyday lives. But have you ever taken a moment to actually consider what it means? Well, according to the dictionary, an opinion is a view or judgment about something, not necessarily based on fact or knowledge. And the way we view things is so important because it shapes our thoughts as well as our realities. And as humans, our opinions are often central to our identities and the beliefs that make us who we are. But let's go back to that second bit now. Not necessarily based on fact or opinion. Not fact or knowledge. But how can that be? How can we form an opinion without having the knowledge to back it up? Welcome to prejudice. It's a world of endless possibilities, and it's more common than you may think. Not because it should be, but because it's become widely normalized. In and of itself, prejudice is a preconceived fact or notion about something without sufficient evidence. Essentially, a type of opinion. At its Latin roots, the word prejudice comes from prejudicium, which means before judgment. And it's often built on stereotypes and exaggerated information. But how is that fair? How can we allow this to continue? Prejudice can be large scale, or it can be subtle. But either way, it has the ability to cause harm. At its very core, it could be considered ignorance. And as much as we'd like to think otherwise, it's happening all around us. And we're not always exempt from responsibility. So, I'd like you to ask yourselves, are you prejudiced? Opinions are formed through a process of collecting and processing information. And we often get this information from the world around us. The things that influence opinions can be internal, like cognitive bias, or simply personal experiences. But these influences can also be external, like the environment we grew up in, or social pressure, which conditions the way we approach certain topics. But ultimately, it's a blend of the two. As we grow up, we absorb information like sponges, and we use the little snippets of information we gather to ultimately form our worldview. And one of the major ways that we get this information is through our families and our educators. So if they present their opinions and information in a certain way, we naturally tend to go along with it to some extent. As humans, when we share our opinions, we naturally just tend to be a little bit selective about the details that we choose to share, whether it's subconscious or conscious. And this leads to an intentional framing of a topic, which can influence the way people perceive it. Obviously, there's always going to be at least one person whose opinion is louder than all of the others, right? And even those who try to force their opinions onto you. But it's important that despite this, we reject conformity and we strive to form educated opinions based on our own research. This is one major way, as individuals, we can work towards reducing prejudice and bias. But I have a confession to make. I am one of those people. I'm not afraid to be vocal about what I think and make sure that my opinions are heard. But I know that I can cross a line sometimes. It can lead me to invalidate the opinions of others just because they aren't as loud as mine. And sometimes it's not even because I can necessarily see that their opinions are wrong, but because I already decided that they were. This is my fatal flaw, my hamartia, something that comes out even when it comes to those closest to me. And it's something that I take accountability for. It's only natural to influence and be influenced by the world around us. But to what extent should we allow ourselves to be? It all starts with self-awareness. Recognizing our biases and asking ourselves, how easily are we forming these opinions? I know obviously it's difficult to fully ignore external influences, but we can make an effort to consciously limit how much we allow ourselves to be affected. Let me remind you, we aren't detached from this. Ask yourselves, are we part of this bigger problem? At the end of the day, there is no such thing as a right and wrong opinion, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Our opinions are our judgments on something, and everybody, and I mean everybody, is entitled to that. no matter if you disagree with them or you agree with them. But they are different from facts, and it's when you present them as such that a problem arises. A subjective claim, by nature, cannot be wrong. However, it's when we present them as objective that we begin to undermine our own credibility and wrong ourselves as well as others. This is something I've personally come to learn. Opinions are a precious proof of human individuality. They aren't something to be forced on others or taken advantage of. So, I implore you, the next time you find yourself forming an opinion, ask yourselves, can you take responsibility? Thank you.